an eye out in case. Right, this is all a bit strange because what I realise is I've not shared my slides. And now I can't find the tab with my slides on. Okay, can you guys see a Canva? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Perfect. Right, let's present. Right, I'll close chat down. Close that down. And we'll go. Amazing. Okay, guys, officially, welcome to Ditch the Diet. It says 5-day challenge. It's a 7-day challenge. I was in another world then when I was doing that. It's a 7-day challenge this time, but don't worry, you don't need to come for 7 days. So what we are doing this time, I'm jumping ahead of myself. This isn't the what to expect bit. I'm just going to do it now. What we're going to do is we're going to meet today. And we're just going to do a bit of an overview. We're going to just like get your head around why diets don't work, and they might like work in the short term, but then they have this like negative impact longer term, all the different things that actually do impact our weight. So you've got a good overview of all the different things that impact it. Tomorrow, we're going to dive deeper into stress because it's like my favorite subject to talk about. So we're going to talk specifically about the role of stress with weight, signs that stress might be impacting your weight, plus a lot of other areas of your life, and some things that you can do to support yourself through diet, through lifestyle stuff. Wednesday, we will then meet for our more like mindset, subconscious conversation, which will make more sense as we come on a little bit later. You'll understand a little more about what I'm talking about there. And then Thursday, we're going to do what I've now coined and neurosomatic breath work, which is a fusion that I have developed where I fuse some somatic therapy with breath work and then some NLP. So whilst you're in a breathwork journey, I rewire your brain with some NLP exercises. Now, I haven't decided what I'm going to do on Thursday yet. Last time we did Ditch the Diet, I did a subconscious release, and I know some of you here for it. We did like a subconscious release. Again, you're going to understand this as we keep talking. Don't worry, I'll go and explain this a bit longer and a little bit further along. But I'm really tempted to do something different this time around a particular theme that's coming up for a lot of my clients. So I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be yet in case I change my mind, but it's going to be all the fun. Then you're going to have 2 days. So Friday, Saturday, you'll have 2 days to catch up on anything that you've missed, to rewatch anything that you've missed, anything like that. And then submit all your questions if you can't make it live, or if you turn up live, you can ask them live. Sunday, we're then going to do a live Q&A. So that is the week. So we've got 4 days of trainings, 2 days to integrate, 1 day to ask some more questions. And then you'll be given opportunities to continue your journey together if you desire, and not if you don't, although quite a few people that are here are already continuing with us because you've already signed up. Okay, so my intention for this week is you walk away from this week ready to throw away everything you thought was true about weight loss. I'm just going to move this, can't read. Ditch the diets for good and feel armed to make changes that will help you nourish your body to lasting weight loss with ease. Now, a little bit housekeeping on what to expect. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because now I can't see anybody. It's always like there's no happy medium. It's like nobody or everyone there. Okay, so I've told you a little bit about what to expect. In terms of these trainings, turn up however you want. Right? You do not have to be on camera. You can be on camera. You may want to make loads of notes. You may want to just like take it in. You may want to be cooking dinner. You might want to be like doing laundry, like do whatever you want. I take things in really well. I'm a really good student, right? So I will sit and concentrate and listen for the speaker, but I don't take any of it in. I have to rewatch it, right? Because I take things in when I'm multitasking. So if you're someone that takes stuff in as you multitask, I will not be offended. Please do whatever works for you. I don't take it as like a sign of disrespect or that I don't think you're concentrating or anything. Like do it however you like to. But if you are like taking notes, that's also perfect. Was there anything else I was going to tell you? Turn up with a glass of wine if you want. I am celebrating the start of Ditch the Diet, so I've brought wine. I might not have a chance to drink it, but I brought it. Join from the bath with the camera off. Like do what works for you. If you're in Australia, please don't turn up with a glass of wine because you'll just be waking up. But talking to UK people, really. So yes, this is what to expect. I think that's all I was going to say. And then when we come in a couple of days, it won't be right at the end, but in a couple of days, I'm going to tell you more about how you can continue to journey with us in Nourished You. There is no expectation because you've come to a free challenge. You have to buy anything, by the way. But if you decide like you really love all this stuff and you want to learn more, you'll be invited to come and join us in Nourished You. it's going to kick off on the 9th of October, so the next round. And it is going to be the final round of Nourished You at this moment in time. Now, permission to change my mind, but I will just explain why. When I launched Nourished You, it was a 12-week nutrition program. And then what happened was I did 1 week of breath work in it, and everybody was like absolutely obsessed with the breath work and were like, Linda, the breath work's like worth the price of the whole program. Oh my God, it was so amazing. So then I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll start to add some more breath work in. And so this time around, we've done fortnightly breath works. But then the next round is like even more I want to put in. So I want to do much more of like the subconscious stuff and all this stuff that I'm going to talk about. And so what's happened is I've ended up more and more and more into the program, but I've not raised the price. But to put it at the price that I think I should be charging for it, it's like a big cost, right? And I don't want to like put this massive cost out there to everyone. So what I'm doing is one last time I'm going to run it like the totality of everything together at the current pricing. And then what I'll probably do is break it out into 2 or 3 different programs and run them separately. So there'll be one nutrition one, and then there'll be one more of the like the subconscious stuff, for example. But if you join now, you basically get everything in one program, right? That's the same price. That's what I'm kind of saying. So I think it is going to be last time I run it. May change my mind, but I think it will be. So you are invited to come and join us. You'll learn a lot about it. It's amazing. We've already got 3 people that are here today that have already joined it. So it's super exciting. But that's that. If you don't want to join, don't worry. You'll also get the option to buy the training, buy the replays of Ditch the Diet. You can binge my Instagram, like do what you want. Like you don't need to buy anything. So there we go. Right. Oh, but on that note, right. So I think I'll probably tell you about Nourished You in more detail on Wednesday or Thursday. But I'm running secret offers on it throughout the week. So do DM me if you're already like, you get to the end of this and you're like, oh my God, I just want to be in the whole program. Drop me a DM because there are secret offers running in the background every day. Okay, so what you'll learn today is you're going to learn why restrictive diets, this happened last time I was doing this, do you remember? Why restrictive diets lead to long-term weight gain in women, and the main factors that lead to unexplained weight gain or an inability to lose weight in women. Right. I also need to say this. I don't know if it'll come up later, but some of you will be here like wanting to lose weight. Some of you will be here because you don't actually have weight to lose, but you've got really restrictive behaviors and you wanted to just like relax your behaviors around like this obsession with healthy eating or calorie restriction or whatever it is. Very much my story, which you'll hear about in a minute. So this is sort of stuff that's going to help like the logical mind kind of understand that, okay, this stuff that I'm doing, this restricting, this is actually causing all of these symptoms, you know, whether it's menstrual cycle issues, anxiety, depression, whatever it is. And actually, I just need to eat like this and I'm not going to gain weight anyway, because this is actually what you need to have a healthy weight, right? So I'll just say that as well. This isn't just necessarily for people who want to lose weight. So that's today. So we're going to be a bit of an overview today. And then over the rest of the week, I've already said, we're going to start diving deeper into other root causes, and you'll experience a combination of nutritional therapy teachings. Will be more tomorrow, some more mindset subconscious work on Wednesday, and then the neurosomatic breath work on Thursday. So before we kick off, I'm going to do a quick introduction, although a lot of you know me already. So I'm Linda. I'm an ex-anorexic turned burnt-out orthorexic workaholic turned healer and transformation coach for women. So a really quick bit on my story. So I grew up loving food, right? My granddad was a market gardener, loved vegetables, had a really healthy appetite, wasn't scared of any foods. My mum was hyper restrictive. Like she was always on 1200 calorie Rosemary Conley diets, always doing low fat, like the amount of cottage cheese and Ryvita she used to eat, and all these like low fat vegetarian cookbook, low fat whatever cookbook, like low fat. She was always on a diet. Never really affected me until I left home and went to university. And we won't go into the reason I got an eating disorder, but basically then I developed an eating disorder and I had anorexia for 5 years. I actually had a bit of bulimia as well when I was in recovery from it. I don't really talk about it very much. But when I was trying to recover from anorexia, I then became a bit bulimic and would like buy loads of donuts and stuff and binge and then throw it all up. Don't advise it, completely wrecked my teeth. And then I recovered, like fully recovered from it all, and didn't have these like, in my head, I wasn't restricting anymore because I was eating, 3 meals a day and stuff. But actually I'd become super hyper like orthorexic, which is where orthorexia is when you're like just obsessed with healthy eating. So you're thinking about how many calories are still in things. You're thinking about, is it a healthy food? Is it not? Like, I'd be the person that would like avoid crisps or cakes in meetings. And I used to have those like 2-litre water bottle, and I'd have 8 litres of water a day because I thought water was good for you and all this kind of stuff. So I kind of replaced this obsession with completely restricting to just obsession with like being really healthy, and then massively over exercising. So I'd be setting the alarm at 4:45 in the morning to make sure I'd done like a 10K run before work. And if I couldn't like fit in like a whole hour workout, if I was doing something different, I wouldn't say HIIT, because I probably couldn't do a HIIT for an hour, but any kind of more intense exercise, it was like, if I wasn't doing an hour, it wasn't a proper workout. And I would have this 100K a week running goal. So it was like, I'd have to do, like, I'd try and do 12K a day in the week. So then I just like mop up the excess from the 12K. But if I was having a week where I had to like really hit the road really early and I'd only managed like 10K, or I'd had to miss a day, then I could end up doing like 50K on a weekend. And I would get up and I would do fasted running, right? Fasted running. So I would get up in the weekend, have a coffee, and do like a 25K run some weekend. Like, it was insane. But this is like all this stuff around like fasted running, like low calorie, blah, blah. And obviously we can look at this now and go, okay, Linda, majorly low worth, completely like linking your self-worth to how skinny you were and all this kind of stuff, right? And it was all a part of like achieving for me as well, like hyper high achiever. I don't know if anyone else resonates with this. Hyper high achiever. So it was like, good is never good enough. Like, I'm a Virgo rising as well, which is like the perfectionist, so critical, all the different things, right? And it's like Virgo rising, so you're critical of yourself. But it's like, yeah, it was like just good is never good enough. So it was like, what's the most perfect thing? And so at work, so I used to work in marketing. In work, like, everyone thought I was the healthy one, right? Everyone saw me, like, knew I used to get up and do my run, and then I had like oats for breakfast, and I'd have like a salad for lunch, and I'd be saying no to the biscuits and the crisps, and I didn't drink coffee, and I only drank water on these different things. Everyone thought I was like super healthy, right? And I had loads of energy. I was like the go-to girl, they would call me. Like, you want something done, go to Linda, because I was so wired on chronic stress hormones all the time, right? Adrenaline. And if you're into human design, I'm also a projector. So I was a very out of alignment projector, taking in all that sacral energy and like being the one that was doing the most. So everyone thought, like, Linda's really healthy, she's always got loads of energy, she never needs coffee, blah, blah, blah. The reality was I was not good, right? So when I was anorexic, I'd lost my menstrual cycle. And so when it didn't come back, I know I say it didn't come back, sometimes I would have like a half-day bleed. Like, you know, those tampons, they would have like regular blah, 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 and they have a light. They used to, I don't know if they do it anymore, they had like an extra light, right? They were like this big. They were absolutely tiny, like tiny. And I might bleed for like half a day sometimes. It was like nothing, that it wasn't really blood. It was just like pale pink sort of color coming out. But I pretty much didn't have a menstrual cycle for like 17 years. And so I thought I was infertile. And I just thought, oh, I've been anorexic, I've read my fertility, this is fine. I don't want kids. I'm a boss babe. I'm smashing life. Got no time for kids. So I created this like story around I didn't want kids, and then it kind of made it all okay. I didn't know how important like your hormones are and having menstrual cycle and stuff is for your health at this point. So I didn't have a menstrual cycle, really bad anxiety, depression, would like cry every day driving home from work. Was just nothing would ever make me happy. It was like I loved my job. Like, I loved the job in terms of like what I did and the responsibility and all the different things. But it was like I'd cry every time coming home. And I felt really lonely, even though I was around people all the time. I developed like really bad hormonal acne, like all over my chin, couldn't get rid of it. Spent about 6 months going for facials like every single week. Obviously it was all inside me, which is why they couldn't deal with it on the outside. But I was spending a fortune on facials, wasn't working. Getting migraines, like shooting pains down my back of my eyes. I did a post on this, I think it was on Saturday. My nails, I had this story, like, I've got weak nails. I was like, I've got weak nails, because my nails broke all the time. And I was just like, well, I've just got weak nails, right? And my hair was really thin. What else did I have? Oh, manically, like really badly constipated. So I would go to like for a poo like once a fortnight, like no joke, like once we would joke about my fortnightly poo. And then when I did go, it was like really painful as well, because obviously I was like completely backing up. So many other things. I had these spots all over my arms, loads of different things, right? So I thought I was being really healthy because I was hyperorthorexic. Everyone else around me thought I was really healthy because they saw me as like the poster girl of health, but actually my health was on the floor. And then a divine moment happened when back in 2017, when my husband asked me for a divorce. So what had happened was, you don't need all the details. When I was anorexic, I studied nutrition, right? We all know I studied nutrition because I wanted to learn how to be thin for the rest of my life. Wasn't a good time. Ended up not like seeing it through for many different reasons. But then I kept having this desire to get back to studying nutrition again. So I went back. So I was studying nutrition so it was over 3 years, every weekend over 3 years. Plus I had this massive corporate job where I was working like 12, 14-hour days every single day because I didn't know how to delegate and ask for help. And also I used to like never trust anyone would do it as good as me. So I used to do all the work, because that's another story. But I was doing all these really long hours. Like I worked in 2 different locations, had like 50 team members, 15 agencies, like it was a lot. And would be up at 4:45 to my run, right? So then my husband was just like, you don't love me. Everything comes before me. The cats, the dogs, work, study, working out, blah, blah, blah. You never see me, because like every weekend, obviously I was studying. So he asked me for this divorce, and it was like this moment when I was just like, and I fully manifested it. I'm just going to say that right here and now. I was like, oh, we're not meant for each other. Fully manifested it. But when he asked me, I was like, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. I want to work it out. So basically, this was like a moment when I was like, I need to take a massive hard look at myself and sort my life out, because I need to turn things around. So at this point, I was like in my second year of uni, and I was learning more about and I was starting to put the pieces together. I'm wondering about how much to tell you about what I was eating, but I don't think I'll go there. I was starting to put the pieces together. I'd started to think, okay, maybe like my symptoms are more to do with like the way I'm eating and stuff like that. So it sort of was divine timing that I started to make changes to the way I ate anyway, but then I was forced to quit exercising. It was forced straight away to like stop those 4:45 workouts, because it was really upsetting him. I was like getting up and working out in the morning. And then I was sort of forced to look at my work day. And I was like, okay, I need to start coming home earlier, not working such long hours. And also, I don't know if anyone's done the love languages quiz, but we did the love languages quiz as well. And I found out that he was acts of service, and I was words of affirmation, right? So I want people to tell me that they like think I'm amazing all the time, but he wants someone that's going to do stuff for him. Well, I used to walk in and like we'd have a bowl of crunchy nut cornflakes for our tea, because once I'd heard Victoria Beckham make crunchy nut cornflakes to be slim, right? And this is another thing, like my behaviors are just ridiculous, right? So I was like, okay, I need to start making dinner for him in the evening, because this is acts of service and I don't do anything to serve him at the moment. So this whole thing sort of happened where I started to eat better. I started eating more food. I started to relax more. I deferred university. So I took a year out and then went back and finished it. So I took a whole year out and totally dedicated my time to be with him and the dogs. And in that time out, my menstrual cycle came back after about 9 months, which was just like crazy, because I wasn't doing it to get my menstrual cycle back. And then because we got ourselves in a relationship in such a good place, and I was like knocking on 38 at this point, and I was like, oh, do you think we should just try for a kid? And basically we fell pregnant, right? And the rest is history. I fell pregnant on maternity leave. I was like, okay, that was not a feasible job to do when I've got kids, and to be a present mum. And I'd had kids later in life. I wanted to be around. So I decided to launch a nutrition business. And I actually, a lot of you will know me from the fertility days, right? So I launched as a fertility expert initially. So that is that part of the story. Sorry, that was quite long. So I had my baby, and then I, because I'd like had this massive exercise addiction, postpartum, I was really like, I'm not going to go down that route. I'm not going to go down that route, right? And also I was breastfeeding, and he didn't have a good latch, and there was a whole issue there. And so I was eating like a horse, but the weight kind of dropped off. And then I was helping clients with fertility, and they would come to me and be like, I want to help with fertility, but like, it would also be nice if I lost weight. And what I was finding is, as they were getting healthier, they were losing weight. And then I had a second child, held on another 20 kilos again. I felt like the first time. And then again, it kind of dropped off afterwards. And I was like, this is interesting. So like, all my clients are losing weight without trying. I lose weight without trying. Why is this? And basically what was happening is everything you're going to learn today. So basically, because I was getting everyone, like, because I always say like fertility is like you need to be the healthiest person in the world to be fertile, right? So many different pieces need to come together for fertility. We've got egg health going on, we've got hormones, we've got gut health stuff, we've got reproductive microbiome, like we've got loads of stuff going on with like fertility, like stress, all the different things, right? I was getting people so healthy that their body started to like burn fat as an energy source and not store it. And the same thing was happening with me because I was so focused on my fertility, like both times around, it was started to use an energy source. And so I put off doing this program because I wanted to do after my first one. I put it off like 2 years in my Nourished You program because I was a bit like, because I'd been so caught up in that world of like, oh, we all need to be slim to be worthy and all, it's all about our weight and all this kind of stuff. Like I didn't want to in my head like add to the problem. So it was like, I'm not going to add to this problem. I'm not going to talk about weight because I don't want to like add to this problem. But then I just keep seeing people doing ridiculous behaviors. I'd be working with clients. It was actually last January. I was working with a client and she was telling me about what she did on Slimming World. And like, she was telling me some ridiculous things that they have, where it's like a whole banana was worth something points, but then a mashed banana was something else points. Can't remember the story now. And there was just these ridiculous rules. And I was going, what on earth is it? And she'd come to me because she'd gone on her first diet at 16 and she was like then 37, 38. And she was like, I'm 3 stone heavier than I ever was at the start. And all I've done is live on diets the rest of my life. And then we were working together. She was like, oh my God, Linda, this is what they need to teach you at school. Why does nobody know this? You need to do a program. And it was like her saying, give me that kick up the butt. Because I was like, I don't want to be part of the problem. And she was like, no, you're the solution to the problem. Like this needs to be taught at schools. So then I launched Nourished You and I've kind of been dedicated to this for the last year. So that was an interesting story. I hope you loved it. So as a wise woman named Linda once said, you don't need to lose weight to be healthy. You need to be healthy to lose weight, right? We've got it all the wrong way around. There's all this stuff about media and like obesity and all this kind of stuff. There's so much stuff, the media and the government, and I can say this because we're on Zoom, I couldn't say this on Instagram, that are causing an obesity epidemic. And I'm going to say this now because I keep wanting to do a post about this and I don't know if it'll get blocked, so I've never done it. But like, food are hiding behind calories because they don't want you to know that all like the fake stuff in their foods is actually what's causing the weight gain, not the calories. So we'll come to that in a bit. But like all these additives and stuff, the things that the body doesn't know how to use, and then like fake nutrients that the body actually can't use, leaving everyone like nutrient depleted, right? And so I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just going to channel because it's coming through. Our body works off nutrients. So if we've got nutrient deficiencies in the blood, the body's like, here's starvation, whether you've got a caloric excess or not, right? So you can go on a like calorie deficit and have like nutrient deficiencies. The body's going to hang on to body fat. So I'm just going off on one. I'm going to keep going. Let me just share the chat. Nourished You is going to be, oh, not tonight. No, I've moved it to Wednesday, Debs. Sorry, I've just seen your message. I'm going to do that one on Wednesday this week, just because of this going on. I thought it was a lot to do one day. Sorry, how do I close that? So yeah, getting ahead of myself. But anyway, we need to be healthy. We need to be healthy to lose weight. You're going to learn all about it. So, and I dropped this in because in our last round of Ditch the Diet, one of my old clients had jumped into the Facebook group and she like put this quote in there and I absolutely loved it. And so I was like, I'm going to leave this in for this one. Like she said, I have never lost weight so easily as when I was working with Linda. I was eating so much, but it's all about regulating your systems. This is what I'm really about. Like, I'm really anti-restriction. If you could spend a day with me, Debs has, because she's come and done 2 day. Did we do 2 or 3 day? Did a 2-day retreat, didn't we? Debs came and did a retreat with me. I eat a lot and I don't restrict. We had sausage and mash for tea. It was like sausage and mash, but we had sweet potato mash. We had peas. We have some other things with it. But I don't believe in restriction. My belief is that we're not nourishing our bodies enough and they're not getting enough, like in terms of like the amount of calories that we actually need to function. And so because many of us are in calorie deficits all the time, our metabolism is slowing down, we're storing body fat because the body thinks there's a famine, flood or war going on, there's food scarce. So it's hanging on to body fat and it just messes stuff up. So how do we regulate our system? So firstly, I'm going to stop talking about myself in a minute. Don't worry, the other days I won't talk about myself at all. But the way I work is I fuse these unique gifts, right? And when I launched my business 3 years ago, I launched as a nutritional therapist. And that's what I did. I did the nutrition side of things. And in a couple of months, it just wasn't hitting the spot for me. It was like, I feel like so much of my healing had taken place through doing a lot of mindset work. So I've been working with mindset mentors and stuff. Like when I was launching my business, I first certified as a nutritionist in 2005, and I was like terrified to launch a business. And that's why I like landed and ended up in the corporate like world. And I was like, I needed a confidence coach. I need this, like that, and the other. I just did so much mindset work. And so I then went on to like certify as a life and mindset coach. And then NLP was like a big one as well. If you don't know what NLP is, it's neuro-linguistic programming. It's basically where we go in, we rewire the subconscious mind, right? So we're working with like memories that happen, for example, in childhood that have had this like longer lasting effects, and we kind of can recreate those memories and diminish them and make them not like impact you as much, or we can actually completely change them and we can create a new memory as well. And different things like that, lots of different things that are involved in NLP, but use NLP. And so then I kind of fused those two for a couple of years. To be honest with you, it was just like, it was the nutrition and the mindset stuff and the NLP, and we were doing that for a bit. And then the next bit that came in was like breath work. At this point, I'd been doing breath work for a couple of years. Well, I've been doing breath work for about 5 years, I think, at this point. And I was just like, do you know what? I really want to start bringing this in as well, because again, so much of my life I'd lived in the head and like out of the body. Like I couldn't remember one of my coaches once saying to me, like, Linda, I need to get you out of your head and into your body. And we were like talking for like the whole session. And then right at the end, he was like, so you know what your homework is this week? You got to get out of your head and into your body. And I went, I was like, yeah, can I just ask, what do you mean? He was like, oh yeah, sorry. He kept saying feel into your body, get out of your head and feel into your body. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't feel in my body. Like, I don't feel anything in my body. I was like so disconnected. And it was this massive journey for me. And then it was only when I started doing breath work, when I was really like, oh my God, like this is starting to move, like trapped stuff in the body, like energetic blocks in there, any kind of like childhood stuff, everything just starts to move. It's incredible. You're going to learn more about it. But yeah, so then I certified in this, and I was certified as a trauma-informed coach, because a lot of the clients coming through had a lot of like trauma, whether it was eating disorders, whether it was like miscarriage, loss, all those kind of things there, or whether it was other stuff that had gone on with family, with addiction, alcoholic parents, all those different things. So trauma-informed. I certified in eating disorders and obesity practitioner back in the day after I'd done my master's in nutrition. And then most recently, I've certified as a somatic stress release practitioner. So I pull in that somatic therapy with the breath work, and then I've kind of fused these things over time. I've been using with clients, and it's just been really natural. Like never kind of thought it through. It just started to happen in sessions. I'd be doing some breath work, and then I'd start to incorporate some NLP, and now I kind of fuse them all, and I've named it neurosomatic breath work. Let me just double check. Lynn, hopefully you are on mute. I can't see you, but if you're not, please, yeah, you are. You haven't missed much. You've only heard me talking about myself. So, so that is it. So basically, this is what I do, right? So I fuse these different things, whether it's with one-to-one clients or whether it is in, oh, she's just unmuted by accident, in Nourished You. And that's why I kind of say, like, Nourished You started off with this, like the nutrition, but then I was just like, oh, there are just gaps, and I don't like gaps in things. So then I started like adding other things in. So let's talk about weight. The weight gain doesn't happen in a vacuum. Like the body is interconnected. So if your body is storing fat rather than using it as a fuel source, there are imbalances somewhere that need resolving. They could be biochemical imbalances. They could be emotional imbalances. They could be subconscious imbalances. And we're going to talk about them all. So when we ditch the diet, we won't just lose weight. And you know what? This program, right, could have just been called the program for women's health, right? I could have called this different things, but there's this theme around that people wanting to lose weight, and that's why I called it like a weight loss program. But ultimately, this is just gonna, when you've got a healthy body, it uses fat as an energy source. So it's all about bringing the body back to health, right? So you're going to balance your hormones, regulate your menstrual cycle, help with challenges including PMS, heavy painful periods, absent periods, any challenges that happen with perimenopause and menopause. A lot of the challenges people have when people have a challenging menopause are because the adrenals, they go into the menopause with the adrenals completely wiped out. So because we're reliant on the adrenals to make progesterone exclusively after we've been through the menopause, and if the adrenals are focused on making stress hormones all the time, or you're just like completely burnt out and they're not working optimally anymore, you're not going to be producing that beautiful progesterone. progesterone helps us burn fat as an energy source, which is great, but it's also anti-anxiety, it's a antidepressive, it's a diuretic, so it gets rid of water retention, it supports hair growth, it supports sleep, all these different things, right? So yeah, so it's all, we're going to help all these different things. We're going to support conditions such as like endo and PCOS and fibroids, because again, these are all down to like hormonal imbalances and inflammation, poor gut health, estrogen dominance, these kind of things. We'll support fertility, we'll improve energy and motivation. We're going to support gut health issues. We're going to balance our emotions. We're going to elevate our mood. We're going to reduce anxiety and depression, reduce brain fog, poor micro. Oh my God, I didn't tell you that as part of my story, right? That's a really funny part of my story. Like I had constant brain fog all the time, right? But the other thing that I had is I started to get short-term memory loss. So in 1 week, I got a parking fine because I went to the machine to go and get the ticket, but then forgot to put it in my car. I literally just walked off with the ticket. And then in the same week, I'd got, it was a different car park. So it was the multi-story though. You put your thing in and you pay afterwards. I'd like gone and paid, gone up to my car, sat in the car, I'm like looking around like, where's my ticket? Where's my ticket? And then like, where's my card? Where's my card? I'd like put ticket in, put a card in and walked off. Like I was an absolute mess. If anyone can, if I can heal, anyone can, that's what I always say. Heal burnout and adrenal fatigue, improve hair, skin, nails, increase your libido, all the different things, right? But you're also going to, with my approach, because I'm looking at the whole body and the subconscious and the emotional and all the different things, you're going to feel more confident in yourself and your abilities. I do a lot of work around confidence and self-worth with people because that's been a lot of like my thing. Like you're going to learn more about this on Wednesday. It's like the drivers of the behaviors that then make us ill. So if you've got chronic stress in your life, it's like, well, what is driving that chronic stress? So are you perfectionist? Are you unable to ask for help? Are you like not able to receive support from others? Do you not ask in case they say no? And then you decide that you're unlovable because they've said no. So it's like, it's safer not to ask someone for help because then they can't say no to you. And then you don't think you're unlovable and things like this, right? It's I can go on for days talking about this stuff. You'll be more clear on where your life's out of alignment and what you desire to change. Because again, like if you're unhappy all the time and we start to heal our body and you still feel unhappy, it's like stuff's out of alignment. It might be job, it might be relationship stuff. It could be, one of the things I always talk about is sometimes like we live our life for others, like our partners, for example. So it's like we might be eating the food that we think our partner wants to eat. We might be like doing the things our partner wants to do on the weekends, maybe watching the TV shows our partner wants to watch. And like we just end up like as women, we end up with such givers, right? So we give to other people all the time, and then we don't do what's right for us. If I speak too fast, please tell me. I do speak fast, but most people can usually follow it. You're going to heal your relationship with yourself. You're going to heal your relationship with others. We talk a lot about the mother wound and the father wound, and we have a lot of forgiveness for them. I have so much like love and compassion. Like when I first like started to realize how much of like my issues had like, so the whole anorexia thing, I'll just quickly go into it here. So I grew up, my dad like gave me the impression he didn't want a daughter. I don't want to say he didn't want a daughter, but let's just say something happened when I was a child that made me think, okay, he doesn't want a daughter. And so I spent my whole life trying to be like, just be what he wanted me to be. I did an engineering degree because he's an engineer. I was a runner because he enjoyed runner. I went off and joined a girl group because he used to like music. Like I did these crazy things. But I was like a perfectionist because I used to get rewarded for how hard I worked, and like academic achievement. I became like the clever one. I became the hard worker, all these different things, right? So when I was working through this stuff and it was like, oh my God, like that's like messed me up. And there was a lot of time, it was like probably 2 years of like dad messed me up. And now I just think like I have so much compassion for him because his beliefs and how he was like making me feel all came from his childhood and et cetera, et cetera. So we have compassion for other people. So let's talk about why diets don't work. How are we getting on? Okay, it might not be 45 minutes, but I'll definitely do it in an hour. So if you're doing everything right and not getting results, then you're not doing everything right, but it's not your fault, right? It's not your fault because we think we're doing everything right, but we're told to do the wrong things. Eat less, move more is not a successful strategy for long-term weight loss, and calorie restriction only leads to gaining weight in the long term. If you feel like your metabolism is working against you rather than for you, it's trying to communicate something to you. It's never acting randomly. So I always say like our metabolism is like our life story. And that doesn't mean you can't change it, right? Like if we've like messed up our metabolism, again, just sort of using that language, it's not like a fact, but like we might have messed up our metabolism a bit through our behaviors over time. but we can bring it back and heal it. But it is kind of our life story. If it's like you look at a piece of cake and you're gaining weight, for example, I mean, it's not just going to be the metabolism, let's face it, you're going to learn that. But it may be because of restrictive behaviors before. So metabolism is just responding to the environment. The metabolism, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, I think I'm going to talk about it in a minute, so I'm not going to say too much now. But the main point being, learning to understand your unique metabolism is like learning a different language, right? And so this is why like 5-step programs and just doing different people's meal plans and stuff, they don't work, because what you're supposed to do when it's finished, like you can't keep implementing the same meal plan for the rest of your life. You'll get bored of it. It may be too restrictive, whatever it is, right? You can't keep doing that. But it's also, we're also unique, right? So if you're gaining weight because you've got estrogen dominance, then that plan, if that isn't going to deal with estrogen dominance, it's not going to work. Like if you're gaining weight because you've got elevated cortisol, going on a restrictive meal plan that raises cortisol even more definitely isn't going to work. So it's all about like working out what's going on in your body. And for that reason, I don't do restrictive. Like my one-to-one clients now, I don't do the meal plans. Like what I do is I tell them where the body's out of alignment. I tell them what nutrients are going to help and what way of eating is going to bring it back into alignment. But I'm never going to say to them, have this for breakfast, have this for lunch, and have this for dinner for the next 7 days, because we all like different foods. Like what I enjoy for breakfast isn't going to be the same what you enjoy for breakfast and stuff like that. So I want you to understand your body, the signs it's giving you, and what you need to do to heal it, and then have this little playbook to go back to and refer to when it comes back out of alignment as well. And this is an interesting fact, right? And it is a fact. The most common cause of obesity is dieting, right? And you wouldn't know that if you just looked at the media and you listen to like the diet people of the world, because I don't know how they get away with it. But dieting is simply starvation from the metabolism's perspective. So when it ends up in its place, it's going to do everything it can to recoup that energy, which is only going to make it harder to lose fat in the long run. 95% of people who lose weight on a standard eat less, move more diet plan gain it back within a year. 66% end up carrying more body fat. And within 2 years, 97% have gained it all back. Within 3 years, everyone has gained it back plus more. So it's like, there's a whole thing. I always say, to believe anything I tell you, you have to be a rebel, right? You have to be a bit of a black sheep, a bit of a rebel, right? Because there's so much evidence out there that like diets work. Like we're forever seeing celebrities like doing their like crash diet, losing the weight, posting the photos of the bikini. But what happens? They all gain it back. But we don't remember that they've all gained it back. We don't remember Kerry Katona's done like her weight loss thing like 17 times now, and then like keeps gaining it back. Like my thing is like, do you want to like lose weight and then put it back and then lose weight and then put it back? Or do you just want to lose weight and just stay off the rest of your life? I would rather have the second one. And the reason why it always comes back when we have these ridiculous behaviors that have been promoted by the media and celebrity and stuff like that is the metabolism is trying to keep you alive. So to keep you alive, it's going to constantly adapt. So if you go into a state of starvation and it thinks food's scarce, you're in a famine, flood, or war, it's going to do everything it can to bring it back, and it's going to prepare for winter. It's going to bring it back and go, oh, I'm going to put more on because last time it happened really quickly and I didn't have enough to keep me sustained. So it's going to like, I say prepare for winter, right? So it's going to put on even more weight. So we don't want to lose weight that way. And it's one of the reasons I don't really talk about weight loss with clients on my stories or anything like that, because I don't want people to like just think about like the number on the scales. Like I want people to think like bigger than that and about health and stuff like that as well. So I've probably already said this. It's here to keep us alive. It's responding to stress. Stress is anything that knocks metabolism out of balance. So the most significant stress in history was starvation. And the longer we're in an extreme calorie gap, the more stress we're putting on our metabolism. So like these long-term chronic, like calorie restrictive diet. I'm just thinking about my mum then. I was like, suddenly went off on one thing, and mum, what have you done to yourself? The more we're going to mess up our metabolism. When we sense starvation, our metabolism is going to activate all the behaviors that can save us from it. So it's going to increase our hunger. It's going to increase cravings specifically for fast energy or caloric rich food. So you're going to get cravings for like cakes or biscuits or, you know, something like that. It's also going to downregulate your resting metabolic rate. And this is a protective mechanism against the hunger. So it's going to like downregulate that as well. Someone dieting will burn less calories at rest than someone who's the same weight or size, etc., not dieting. And this just something about this like dieting that pushes that metabolic rate down. So we can actually eat more without gaining weight if we just stop dieting. And the other thing that it does when we diet is it messes with our energy, because if you don't have fuel, the best thing for metabolism to do is like conserve energy, right? Because it's like, I haven't got enough energy, so I'm going to conserve it. So it's going to like slow you down. It's going to make you want to rest. But at the same time, it wants to motivate you to go and search for food because you're starving. So then you get this like unstable energy. 1 minute, like you've got loads of energy and you're going, and then you're absolutely crashing and you just like can't move. And so you can go from feeling like wired and motivated, and then suddenly like you're drained and foggy headed and all these different things. And that's very much, I think, what I was like. If you feel like this, your metabolism, nice. It's a nice little wrap up. I think I've got one more slide on metabolism. The other important thing to know is if you are losing weight with poor sleep, mood that's all over the place, hunger that's like out of control, so you're like feeling hungry at inappropriate times, your energy is struggling, so either you're struggling to wake up in the morning, or you're getting energy lows in the evening, or you're getting like a second wind after 11 p.m, for example, you can't sleep in the night, and you're dealing with intense cravings, these are all signs your body is gearing it up to gain all the weight back that you've lost. So really, when you're on a weight loss journey, for those of you that do want to lose weight, like I say, this isn't just people who want to lose weight. This might be if you're really restrictive and it's just like, oh my God, like light bulb moment, I don't need to restrict anymore. But when you are losing weight, if you really want to be losing weight whilst you've got great sleep, stable mood, balanced hunger, great energy levels, and you're not getting cravings, because they're signs that your metabolism isn't getting wrecked and you're not going to like just pile all the weight back on again. It's like your body is like adapting to this new normal. How are you all getting on? Just pop me a yes in the chat if it's all making sense and I'm not going too fast. Yes, Debs, and your morning walks. And I love that we're getting more autumn walks as well now, because I love those mornings. Good. Okay, I'm getting a couple of yeses. I trust that everyone else is multitasking and they're doing what I told them to. So knowledge is power. When we know the why, it's easy to make the changes. But when we're stuck in this trap of false information, which is celebrity and media, when we don't know the truth, we're going to keep going back to the old habits that are causing weight gain. The other thing is, I'm going to say it now in case I forget, we've all got evidence of losing weight when we restricted or we went on diets, right? We've all got evidence. We'll have all done something in our 20s when we've lost weight, right? And this is why I say you've got to be a bit of a rebel, because it's like, the memory of that on this from a subconscious perspective is I restricted, and I'm not conscious, let's be honest. I restricted calories, I lost weight, or like I wanted to lose a stone to get bikini, to go on holiday. It worked, right? And this is the memory we have. So we have these memories of diets working. But what we don't then put the pieces together about is how we messed up our metabolism and gained loads of weight back afterwards. And then it became harder to lose the weight. And then we blamed it on just getting older or something like this, right? And so you have to be a bit of a rebel to go, I'm ignoring all that evidence out there of like celebrity losing weight on restrictive diets. And I'm going to go Linda's route of like root cause healing and bringing my body back into alignment so it can start burning fat as an energy source, right? Not a hell of a lot of evidence out there. Not many people say it like that, like I do. So if you're here and you're a rebel and you believe me, thank you. Thank you. And that's why I'm going to try and give you evidence to convince you. So I've only got a couple more slides left. I'm just going to talk you through these points in more detail than it looks. So I'm going to talk around each of these points and just give you a really good overview of the different things that impact it. And then we'll like wrap up, do a little bit of Q&A, and then give you homework, and that's it. So thank you for bearing with me. By all counts, I never get the timing quite right. Okay, it's okay. We've got 11 minutes until the hour. In fact, we started late, didn't we? We started about 25 to. So, okay, so what really leads to weight gains? If it's not dieting and calorie restriction, what is it, Linda? So calories does play a role, right? It's not like calories is like nothing. But let's learn a little bit about the history of calories. Calories actually came in during World War I when people were in concentration camps And they needed to know how many calories to keep people needed to stay alive, right? And so it was like, what is the base amount of calories we need to give people to keep them alive? And this is where like this whole resting metabolic rate thing came from. It's like the amount of calories you need just to like lay down. There's like BMR and resting metabolic rate, but it's like laying down, not doing anything, just like keeping all the processes of the body functioning, right? But what the calorie piece doesn't take into account is people eating like fake foods, the toxins in the environment, hormonal imbalances, all of these other things we're going to talk about now, right? It doesn't take in that full picture. It also doesn't take into account, because it's like focused on this like short term, I want to lose weight in 4 weeks because I've got to be in a bikini, or 2 months, whatever it is, be in a bikini to go to Ibiza, or I need to lose whatever to be in my Christmas dress, right? People are looking at it from that perspective, like, how can I starve myself, essentially? How can I starve myself so I can lose a load of weight so that I can fit into whatever it is? The other thing is, when we do on these crash diets that I haven't even mentioned, and we like cut the calories really fast, is we're not losing a ton of body fat. We are losing muscle mass, and we are losing a lot of water. So you are losing weight on the scales, but you're not necessarily losing a ton of body fat. So that's another thing as well, right? So a lot of the time I find women eat far too few calories. And because they're eating so few calories, the metabolic rate has had to drop a lot. And so then it's almost like they've got themselves in a trap, because they don't eat more, because they feel like when they eat more, they do gain weight. And it probably will to start with, because your body needs to readjust to this new norm. Because if it's been in this famine for a really long time, and it's like, okay, is food available? Winter's coming. Let me stock up and store. But you just need to kind of ride that uncomfortable wave of like the body getting uncomfortable for a little bit, and then it'll readjust. I literally just channel when I come on these courses, I don't prepare it, you can tell. Number 2, blood sugar roller coasters and insulin, right? So insulin is amazing. We love insulin. Insulin's role is it goes into the bloodstream, and it takes away glucose and stores it away. So it'll store in the liver, it'll store in muscles, and it'll store it away as body fat. And it's basically storing glucose away to be used as energy at a later date, because glucose in our blood vessels causes a lot of damage. So we don't want that. So it wants to take it away. So insulin is really, really important. We need to go and take that glucose away and take it into cells. The problem with insulin is, effectively, it is a fat storing hormone. Ultimately, when the liver's full, there's no more space. When the muscles are full and there's no more space, it's going to store glucose away as body fat. So the more that we have spikes in insulin throughout the day, the more times we're going store body fat, store body fat, store body fat, store body fat, because insulin's having these spikes to bring things stuff away. And the problem is, there was this whole time when we were getting told to snack. So I think maybe in, I don't know when, probably even early 2000s, when I was first studying, we were still telling people to snack. I'm going off on one now. Let me take a step back before I talk about snacking. The problem with the Western diet is a lot of it causes insulin spikes. So really what we want to be doing is eating a real whole food diet, right? And having healthy protein, healthy fats, and fiber in each meal. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow. And that's going to slow the spikes, right? The fiber is going to cause like a nice like lining in the stomach, which is going to stop the glucose going out and spiking really fast. The proteins absorb more slowly. So we've got these things slowing down the absorption of glucose. But when we just have like pasta or a pizza or a sandwich or porridge or all of those kind of like the special K diet or whatever it was, our blood sugar is going to like spike really fast, because glucose gets absorbed, like carbohydrates get absorbed more quickly, particularly simple carbohydrates. So like the white carbohydrates, the refined like cereals, refined carbs, all the different things. They'll spike really fast. When your glucose spikes fast, more insulin gets pumped out. So the more glucose, the more insulin. So what happens is that you'll spike, insulin comes, store body fat. And then what happens is, because your blood sugar crashes, you're going to get hungry more quickly. So then you're going to be like, get something again, you want fast energy because you've suddenly gone really hungry. So you want a biscuit or a cake or a croissant or something. And then again, it'll spike and then it'll crash. You end up on that roller coaster all day. So that quick one on snacking, we were told we needed to snack to balance our blood sugar, right? So we've known about blood sugar for a really long time. Like we've known like Low glycemic index diets you've probably heard about, like low glycemic load diets you've probably heard about, like blood sugar we've known about for a really long time. But then there was this story got put out again in the media, which was like, we need to eat every 2 to 3 hours to balance our blood sugar so we never like drop. But the reality is when we ate it, but this is because we're in the low fat era, right? We're in the low fat era. So our blood sugar, we did need to eat because we weren't satiated from our meals as well. So we know now that all of the data around the fat causing heart disease or whatever it was supposed to cause, it was all based off this terrible study that wasn't factually correct. And it's actually sugar that's caused an obesity epidemic and caused a lot of the different issues. We need fats to make hormones, all the different stuff. I go on about fats in Nourished You. But having healthy protein, healthy fats and fiber in each meal, probably should all ever needed to tell you, will help balance your blood sugar, right? So you're not going to keep these insulin messages. But we don't want to snack as well. Sorry, this just comes back to this point, because our gut needs to clean up between meals. So everybody has got blooming gut issues now, right? And one of the issues people have got gut issues, one of the reasons people have gut issues, chronic stress messes with the gut, but also not having long enough between meals. So there's something that comes in after we've eaten and everything's like passed through from the stomach down the small intestine, gone to the large intestine, called the migrating motor complex, and it comes in and it cleans stuff out. And we just don't allow long enough between meals for the migrating motor complex to come in and clean stuff out. And then we can get stuff like SIBO, where we get bacteria growing in the small intestine where it shouldn't be. So there we go. I'm going off on one. Right. Real and perceived stress, including starvation and elevated cortisol. So I say real and perceived because there are real stresses, right? Car drives out in front of us. We need to brake. Otherwise we would crash the car, right? And lots of different examples of that, like real stresses that are going on in real life. But then we also have perceived stresses. So things that we think are stressful, but we're creating those thoughts of stress ourselves. For example, it's 8 o'clock in the evening, you hear a beep on your phone, you check, it's an email from your boss asking for something. And it's like, oh my God, he wants this now. This is me. And you have to go up and do it right now, right? Because you feel like, well, my worth is like linked to me working in the evening, responding as soon as someone sends me something, all these different things, right? So we put these unnecessarily stress on us. We think every email coming through is like urgent, you know, everyone like putting demands on us. We can't say no to them. We can't say, oh, no, I'm not available for that. Or, you know, I could do with some time to myself or whatever it is. It's like saying yes to all the different people. So we cause this really stressful life and etc. So a lot of stuff around that. So cortisol, again, we're going to dive deep in this tomorrow. We've got a short-term stress hormone, adrenaline. We've got a long-term stress hormone, cortisol. Cortisol, and we call it long-term because cortisol thinks you're in a famine, flood, or war. So adrenaline thinks there's a tiger chasing you. Cortisol thinks you're in a famine, flood, or war. So what do? Store fat around your tummy and your torso, so around your vital organs, basically, so that they don't get damaged when you go through this famine, flood, or war. It's like keep as much fat there as possible to protect your organs. And then you'll end up with like skinny arms and legs, because what we start to do is like break down the muscle in your arms and legs for energy. So if that resonates, got a little roll around your tummy and skinny arms and legs, that could be a cortisol, what I call cortisol belly. And then we've also got nutrient deficiencies. So I mentioned this earlier. The body is like looking for, every biochemical reaction in the body has nutrients as enzymes that get involved in those reactions. So if we've got nutrient deficiencies, the body thinks we're starving, whether we've got enough calories or not. So we have so many people having nutrient deficient diets, even though they're caloric rich, or they might be caloric poor. If you're using the low fat, you know, the 90 calorie bars and all these kind of things, like iceberg lettuce doesn't have any nutrients in it, whatever. You've got these nutrient deficiencies, and then the body thinks you're starving, you've got nutrient deficiencies, and it has that similar role to cortisol. It's just going to hang on to body fat around the belly and around the torso. Inflammation. Again, we have like inflammatory diets, you know, the Western diets of inflammatory diet. We have like the seed oils, which are pro-inflammatory. This causes weight gain. There are lots of different things with the gut. So low stomach acid, which can come about from chronic stress most commonly. We're not absorbing foods optimally because we've not got the good stomach acid to start with to break them down. Then we get the nutrient deficiency bit. Leaky gut, so again, increases with chronic stress. So these things we're going to talk about more tomorrow. That leads to things getting through the gut lining that shouldn't do and go into the bloodstream. And then the body sort of sees these things in the bloodstream. So I'm not going to expand on it now because we'll talk about it tomorrow, and I'm just conscious of time, but we'll talk about leaky gut tomorrow. Things get into the bloodstream that shouldn't be there. The body has this like immune response against these things. And immune response is basically then what we call inflammation, right? It's this chronic immune response in like the whole body. And then we've got gut microbiome. So the gut microbiome is really fascinating because there's a load of research out there that has done what we call fecal implants. It's like a horrible thing, but it's basically taken fecal matter, which is poo, from an obese person and put into a thin person and vice versa, and like twins, and they've like swapped. So the obese person's become slim and the slim person's become obese, and it's to do with the microbiome and how the different bugs in the microbiome, so that's the bugs in the large intestine. We are more bugs than we are human, by the way, and they're really good for us. They do a lot of good jobs, but there's the good ones and there's bad ones. So we've got more of the bad guys. They use energy differently. They like crave, for example, they can crave sugars, and you can find out that you're like got sugar cravings, but it's not really you, it's like the bad guys in the gut who are craving the sugar. But yeah, there's a whole thing around the gut microbiome. And then there's transit time, right? So you could either be like chronically constipated, and if you're chronically constipated, what happens is the toxins in the poo, because poo is designed to get toxins out, then can get absorbed through the bowel wall and go into the bloodstream. And then once toxins are back in the bloodstream, I'm going to talk about toxins in a minute, but what happens is the body doesn't want toxins in the bloodstream because it, again, can travel around and damage the vital organs. What it does is it stores toxins away in body fat. So then what we can do is we can end up with body fat we can't burn as energy, for energy, because the body fat's got toxins in it, right? Can talk about that more in a minute. But again, when we're constipated, those toxins can go out and that can lead to that. Or we can have a really fast transit time. You can have more of like diarrhea kind of IBS, or you may, have this like chronic stress or something going on. And then when that happens, you don't have time to absorb all the nutrients from your food. And then you have these nutrient deficiencies. We are nearly there, a few more to go. So the good stuff. Then we have got hormonal imbalances, right? Lots of them. Estrogen. Love estrogen. Don't want to give it a bad name. But what estrogen does is it lays fat down around our hips and our thighs. And a lot of us, what can happen is we can end up estrogen dominant or with high levels of estrogen. I do a whole week on the estrogen in Nourished You because there's a lot to talk about, but we've got like xenoestrogens in the environment. We've got lots of different reasons why we end up with high estrogen. And so when we have too high levels, we might end up storing more body fat in those areas. On the opposite end though, low estrogen can actually lead us to more of like that apple shape where we're storing more body fat on our tummies, because if we have really low levels of estrogen, and that usually comes along with the chronic stress, we've already got the cortisol bit hanging fat, making us gain fat around our tummies as well. When we've got low estrogen, we're not getting that message to put in on hips and thighs, which is a healthy place to store it, right? This is the place that's why women like live longer and stuff, because they're like healthier. Yeah, so we can end up hanging on to like body fat around our tummies as well. Progesterone, I mentioned this earlier, helps us burn fat for energy. Loads of people are deficient in progesterone. Stress depletes it. Poor quality eggs, different things. Testosterone, again, low testosterone and high testosterone in different ways can lead to us gaining weight. And then we have the hormonal changes of perimenopause and menopause that can mess with the sex hormones. It can mess with thyroid. It can mess with lots of different things that then cause weight gain. Postpartum issues. I do a module in Nourished You on postpartum because I don't like people going on like crash diets postpartum. But again, postpartum thyroiditis, they call it, where you become hypothyroid short-term postpartum, that can contribute to that postpartum weight gain. Nutrient deficiencies, people can come out of pregnancy like super nutrient deficient, particularly if you went into pregnancy nutrient deficient, if you're like really stressed in the run-up or anything like that. And then again, body thinks you're nutrient deficient, so it's going to hang on to body fat. Then we've got the impact of like endocrine disruptors in our environment, which is basically like chemicals that attach to receptors in the body and act as hormones. So they can like mess with thyroid hormones, sex hormones, all the different things. Something called growth hormones. We've got growth hormone deficiency. So loads of stuff with hormones. And then like working with our menstrual cycle as well, because our energy is going to change throughout the cycle. Our insulin sensitivity changes throughout the cycle. The exercise that is most effective to do and changes the cycle, even like how we react to caffeine changes. So when we're just like living like men with a 24-hour clock, instead of aligning with our menstrual cycle and doing things differently at different times, then that can like cause havoc and actually make things worse. It can generally lead to like more stress and lower progesterone, and then lower mood, emotions. Then we're going to be comfort eating, and all those different things. We've got hunger hormones and leptin resistance. There's lots of different hunger hormones. I want to talk about leptin resistance as well. I do a whole week on Nourished You and leptin resistance because it's more common than people realize. So leptin resistance, so basically leptin is a hormone that's produced by fat cells, and it communicates to the brain how much energy is available on the body, i.e. how much body fat you have, right? Because body fat is just an energy source. It's like some energy saved for another day, right? We want body fat. Don't want anyone aiming for a super low body fat. Like, we want some body fat on us. It's energy for a later day. So that's supposed to communicate. And it communicates after a meal to like help us stop eating, but it also communicates overnight. So around like 12-1-ish, it docks to our hypothalamus. So in the brain, it docks there, and it tells the body how much energy is available on the body. And then off that then helps set your metabolic rate for the next day, your motivation to move, and your appetite. So how much you're going to eat, what your metabolic rate is going to be like, and whether you feel like cleaning the house top to toe, or going out for a run, or like doing loads of activity, or if you want to just lie on the sofa all day, right? And so what can happen, and again, one of these things that is linked to like chronic stress, chronic dieting, but it's also it's a circadian hormone. So getting too much like blue light in the evenings, not getting sunlight on the eyes in the morning, these kind of things can mess with leptin sensitivities. It's a bit like insulin resistance, leptin resistance, insulin sensitivity, leptin. So insulin resistance, like the diabetic thing. So some of you might have heard of it. So yeah, so we're not as sensitive to leptin's messages, and then we're not like hearing them appropriately. And we can get that with both high leptin and low leptin. And you can have leptin resistance as like a slimmer person or someone that's carrying a bit more body fat. It can happen to both people, right? And we can just have inappropriate hunger at inappropriate times, inappropriate desire to move, and then messed up metabolic rate. So it's a big one, that. And I cover this in, I think it was like week 2, wasn't it, Debs? It was like really early, because I just think like setting your circadian rhythm is like key for so many of the other female hormones, like getting that circadian rhythm in order. And I just think it's one of the reasons, again, because we get like glued to like Netflix and stuff these days, don't we? And everyone's sort of staying up later. And sometimes I'll be like trying to get someone to go to bed. And, you know, I think I said this on my stories the other day, or I did a post or something about it, of like, maybe it was a post. And it's like one of those things where I ask like clients to go to bed a little bit earlier, but it's like, well, when I've got the kids to bed, it's like the only time I get time to myself. But I'm like, well, you're doing it. And it's like, well, I'm cleaning the house. I'm like ironing school uniforms. I'm like prepping lunches. It's like, well, it's not really time to yourself, is it? And this is why it's like, we need to ask our partners for support and stuff as well. So that's leptin. Then like the thyroid as well. So we can get hyperthyroid and hypothyroid. The one that's more linked to like unexplained weight gain or explained weight gain would be hypothyroid. So the thyroid sets the metabolic rate of absolutely everything. So it's not just to do with like body fat. It's setting the rate you're producing stomach acid, for example. So if you've got hypothyroid, you're more likely to not be making enough stomach acid, which means you're not going to be breaking down your food optimally, which means you're going to have nutrient deficiencies. You're probably going to get some bloating and gas and what we call protein putrefaction and messed up microbiome, like those different things there, right? So you've got like thyroid stuff going on. One of the most common things I see in like high achieving women is what we call subclinical hypothyroid. In fact, most of my clients right now have got this. So what will happen if you've got subclinical hypothyroid is you'll go to the doctor, you'll check your TSH. So the pituitary gland makes thyroid stimulating hormone, and thyroid stimulating hormone tells the thyroid to make thyroid hormone. TSH will be normal, and then they will send you away and say you're fine. Even if you've got like fatigue, constipation, you feel cold all the time, you're losing your hair, like all these different symptoms of hypothyroid. I will then test them. Well, firstly, I'll look at TSH and I'll go, it's not normal, because we're looking at it being below 2 or below, and they're looking at it being 4.86 below or below, I think. But we'll then do like further testing, and what we'll find quite often is that people have got what we call elevated reverse T3. So the thyroid makes 2 hormones, T4 and T3. T4 is the inactive form, and 80% of the thyroid hormone is in this inactive form. So, and then it gets converted to the active form when it's needed. So that's so it's not like speeding everything up too much, right? So it's in the inactive form, and it'll convert to T3 when it's needed, and it'll attach to a receptor. And we need hormones to attach to receptors to do their job. So it's the same with sex hormones. They have to attach to receptors to do their job. So attach to a receptor, do its job. The problem is when we're chronically stressed, we increase the production of something called reverse T3, and reverse T3 is an inactive form of T3. So even with normal T3 on the labs, GPs won't check reverse T3. You have to do that privately. So then you do check your reverse T3 and it's like, oh my God, I've got really high reverse T3. That means reverse T3 is attaching to receptors instead of T3. And that's why I feel rubbish. So this happened really recently with one of my clients. I think her TSH was like, it was like 4.52 or something. She got sent away, but then we retested it was 3.56. So it had come down a little bit, but T3 was like marginally low, like nothing massive, like ever so slightly low. T4 was absolutely fine, but reverse T3 was really high. And it was like, okay, so the reason TSH is raised is because it thinks you've not got enough T3 because you've got so much reverse T3 attaching to receptors. And then the thing about thyroid, sorry, so much to tell you here. T4 gets converted to T3 predominantly in the liver and the gut. So if you have got a high toxic load, you're not giving the liver the support that it needs, or you've got gut health issues, then that conversion might not work optimally. There's lots of different nutrients that are needed, like iron deficiency can be linked to hypothyroid. There's a lot more to it. Elevated cortisol obviously linked to it. So again, subclinical hypothyroidism basically means your doctor will tell you you're fine and you're not. And then we've got mitochondria. So mitochondria, do you remember from school, the hamster or the gerbil or something running around, it might have even been a rat or a mouse, running around in that thing. And they used to call them the energy factories of the cell. And the mitochondria is where we basically produce energy. But if we have unhealthy mitochondria, we might not be able to burn either glucose, fat, or protein, or potentially all of them. But what can happen is the body can become really good at burning like one source of fuel. Say, for example, it gets really good at burning carbohydrate, but it's not very good at burning fat for energy, for example. So that can happen as well, where the mitochondria just aren't that healthy, or they can become a bit damaged. So we actually want like really good mitochondria. And also I've said mitochondrial number as well. And this is why muscle mass is important, because muscle mass is where we're going to have most mitochondria, because muscle is metabolically active. So we need more of it. So again, we do want to be building muscle. And remember, cortisol breaks down our muscle. So when we're like chronically stressed, we're going to be breaking down that muscle instead of building it. I promise we're nearly there. Detoxification. So I've said this just before. So when the body is overloaded with toxins, which I'll explain a bit more in a minute, to stop those toxins traveling around and damaging our organs, it stores the toxins away in body fat. So, and then we can't use that body fat for energy, because the body's like, if I burn that fat cell for energy, I'm going to release that toxin. And right now she's constipated. She's got a whole load of toxins coming in. I'm not going to be able to deal with it. So I'm just going to keep that in that body fat. And then people can have this like chronic, unexplained weight gain. They just, whatever they do, it can't burn it. And it's because of this high toxic load. So the high toxic load that we have comes from walking down the street, breathing in fumes, having plug-in air fresheners, our beauty products that we're putting on us, you know, anything from 60 to 90% of what we put on our skin. Think about nicotine patches, how they work. Now 60 to 90% of what we put on our skin gets absorbed into the bloodstream. And so when we have toxic beauty products, we're absorbing those toxins, right? Pesticides, herbicides on our food, like all these different things, right? So we've got this high toxic load. I mean, alcohol, caffeine, the list goes on. We have this high toxic load going in. We're not pooing enough. Most people come to me with some form of like some level of constipation, either not going every single day, or we're going, but we're not like having a really nice full evacuation, as I like to call it. Or we're not sweating because we're using antiperspirants, so we're not sweating, and these different things, right? So detoxification is super, super important, like moving our lymph. Again, sedentary lifestyles, going to the gym for an hour a day and then sitting still the rest of the time, right? For our lymph to move, we need to move it. It doesn't just move on its own, like the blood pumps around the body. Like we need to move lymph. So we need to move our lymph. So you can do like lymphatic drainage exercises, but really you just want to like getting up and moving about the body just to get it moving from like a day-to-day basis. So this impacts it as well. And then we're nearly at the end. I think we might even be at the end of the more biochemical things. So then metabolism, like I said this before, this is really your life history, right? So fast, slow metabolism. What you really want is a flexible metabolism, right? So you don't want a fast metabolism. You don't want a metabolism that burns through stuff and leaves you starving all the time, right? Just like you don't want a really slow metabolism. What you want is flexible, that like changes to what's happening that day and changes all the time, right? And that's actually what you want. The way we move, if you are chronically stressed, the last thing you want, and you've got high cortisol, last thing you want to do is like hit exercise, long distance running, because they're both going to raise cortisol even more. So I had a client, I don't know if I've told the story here or not, I've spoken to someone else about it today. I had a client who, in the time she was working, in the 3 months she worked with me, she gained half a stone. Sorry, dinner's just repeating on me. She gained half a stone, but she went down 2 dress sizes. Now, we hear this story a lot, don't we, right? So it's like, well, of course, yeah, we build muscle mass, we're going to gain weight, but we've dropped a stress size, it's fine. But what was really interesting about her is when I started working with her, she was doing like the 1,200 to 1,400 calorie thing. She was using MyFitnessPal. She was having 8 coffees a day. She was up and training first thing in the morning. So she was doing like high intensity exercise, and I took her exercise away from her. So she actually gained half a stone and dropped 2 dress sizes by stopping exercising and increasing her caloric intake, her food intake, cutting back on the caffeine. And she was like, she fitted into this blouse, and it's for a birthday. And she was like, I haven't worn this for 10 years. I can't believe it. But what was happening is because of chronic cortisol was just breaking down a muscle all the time. So then when we actually like slowed her down and just had her going out for walks and stuff, her muscle was able to rebuild even without doing like heavy weights and stuff. Like, it was insane. One of my favorite stories ever. So muscle mass is important. It has a faster metabolic rate. It's going to burn more energy. And also muscle mass is really important as we age. So like weights training is actually really good. Like as we age, the reason, you know, as women, we can have like broken bones and stuff as we age tends to be because we fall, and we're more likely to fall because we've not got the muscle mass like keeping us up. So like from that perspective as well, and preventing breaking bones and stuff as we age, we want to maintain our muscle mass. But it's about doing the right exercise. So like yoga, like if you're a chronic stress, it's like yoga, Pilates, walks, that kind of thing. Then if you're not chronically stressed, then we can throw some other stuff in, and then like also building up to weights. Your identity, right? This is really important. Some of you I'm gonna lose some of you now. You're gonna think I'm wacky, but I am wacky. I believe in manifestation, and I believe in I believe our belief around our identity creates our reality, right? So if you are the person that always is like, I'm the fat one, like I was the fat kid, or I'm the fat one, or blah, 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 whatever your identity is, right? My identity, because I was anorexic and was actually really ill, but then I obviously then stayed slim after being anorexic. Like my identity was the tall, skinny one, right? So I said this last time I did this, like, it's not a surprise to me that after pregnancy, the weight fell off quite easily without me doing exercise and still eating like an absolute horse, because that was my identity. So my body was catching it with my reality. The reality was catching it with my identity. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's about your identity. So what is your identity? Like if your identity is, I'm the hard worker, I'm the overgiver, I'm the people pleaser, like these things, that they're going to be your behaviors, right? And if you start to put boundaries in place, it's like, well, I had to do so much work when I launched my business, because all my evidence was over working hard. And it was like, the more fun I have, the more money I make. The less I work, the more, like these kind of like affirmations, try and identify that, change that identity and change that belief. So yeah, identity work, really important. Subconscious blocks to releasing body fat. So we do this within the program. We do this with breathwork, and maybe we will do it on Thursday in the breathwork, but I'm thinking of doing something else. There are a lot of reasons people hang on to body fat that is just beyond any comprehension of what you could think until you actually go through this process. But we've had a lot of people come through. So these are the common things, right? Highly sensitive person, really impacted by other people's energy. So they're hanging on to body fat as like a protective mechanism for when they go out into like the outside world, because other people's energy impacts them. So it's almost like a protective shield. We've had people who've had like miscarriage or abortion, PCOS, endometriosis, like with chronic pain, any kind of like lots of different women's health things that are kind of around the womb space, that they may be hanging on to body fat as a protective mechanism because they kind of don't want anyone going there because they've had so much trauma around the area. Obviously, like any kind of like sexual assault, unwanted sexual advances, even like consensual sexual experiences. This came up last time of like the mind was consenting, but like the breath work brought up like the body hadn't consented. So it was like, it was a protective thing of like when they were younger and these things had happened, it was like, oh yeah, logically I was consenting, but my body wasn't consenting to that experience. And then there may be more of these subconscious blocks can be like, last time you were like a certain size, like something happened, you got really sick, say for example. So it was like you may have been like training for some like bikini competition or whatever, and then like became like really sick, or got unwanted attention in the workplace, or used to get unwanted attention on nights out, so then like gain the weight as like a protective mechanism. Like all these different things can come up. The other one that's really common that I'm working with clients at the moment, because I do business coaching as well, so I kind of call in these kind of people, is 3 of my clients, which is it's so interesting that it's coming up, and why it's like one of the reasons I want to do this with you guys on Thursday is they're all different. So they're all different reasons, but it's like 2 of them are like, when I launch, when I want to launch my business and I want to be seen, I want to have an Instagram account and all the different things. But to launch the business, I want to be like X size. I want to feel a certain way about myself and look this certain way. Or I want to wear this particular outfit. Like I've got this, I can see this whole PR launch event when I launch this like business, and I'm wearing this outfit, and like I can't get into it. And so it's like, I want to do this thing. So like consciously, I want to do this thing, but I'll only do it when I get to this size. But then actually we've done the work around it. It's actually, well, the body fat's keeping you safe, because when you do lose the body weight, you actually need to do the thing, because you're saying you're going to do the thing. And then actually to stop yourself doing the thing, you're hanging on to the body fat. So it's like, once we lose the body fat, we've got to do it. So now we need to work through, okay, who do you need to be that person? What, and all that kind of stuff. So it's like fascinating. And then I've got another client who wants to be like a singer on the stage, right? And it's like, again, it's like, oh, but I don't feel my best at the moment. So these kind of like this protective thing, like stopping you, and I say doing the thing, right? Stops you doing the thing, because it's kind of keeping you safe. So they could talk about that for hours. So everyone's going to have different reasons, but there could be subconscious things going on. And then I've talked a little bit about this, and this is more around like the chronic stress and the cortisol production. So it's not just about like stress in life. It's like, okay, you've got low self-worth, poor boundaries, not asking for help, all these different things, overgiving, perfectionism. And then we've also got obviously like self-sabotaging behaviors. So, you know, people who are actually genuinely like, I know a couple of people have actually come in and said that they're emotionally eating, and they want to like get under the skin of that. And we can definitely talk about that. So that could be classed as some sort of like self-sabotaging behavior in itself. It's just like, you know, just like getting a pack of biscuits and eating all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Or just having like poor body love, not taking good care of yourself, like thinking that everyone else comes before you and all these different things. So I know that was like a lot. What I do in Nourished You, there's basically 20 nutrition modules, right, which drop, and there's like a couple like drop each couple of weeks. So I think 3 modules drop every couple of weeks. And so we go into like there's separate weeks for different things. So there's like a couple of gut health weeks. There's a week on estrogen. There's a week on progesterone. Like I go into each one like deeper, but then they build. So there is some repetition. So for example, I'll be talking about stress and how stress impacts our weight, but then progesterone, stress is like a driver of low progesterone. So I'll be like, we'll talk a little bit about this again, but this is all linked to the stress stuff, for example. But I kind of go into, so it's not broken down in this way, the different modules, but there are like 20 separate different modules where we go into like leptin, we go into gut stuff, we go into detoxification, we go into all the different hormones. And then what we do with the, and that's in like a portal. So it's all pre-recorded, and they're broken down to like 10-15 minute trainings. And then you like can watch like little ones. So it's like, it might be an hour's worth of training for like one module, but they're broken down. And then in the live calls that we do the breath work, and we're going to do more of this stuff around self-worth and all these different things as well. But this is like giving you an overview. So I realized that was a lot. I'm going to quickly do homework. And the way I do these is I always stop the recording before Q&A, so that if anybody doesn't want to be like on the recording before it goes out to other people, then you don't do, right? So it's completely safe. So that's why I'm just going to give you homework before I ask if there's any Q&A. So today's homework, and I've already given you this one. So if you're in the Facebook group, you guys know this, but I've just kind of repeated it here because so few people are in the Facebook group right now. So I want you to get clear on your why, and I want it to be, it can be weight loss, right? It can be like a number on the scales. It can be a dress you want to get in or something like that, right? It can be weight loss. Like, I'm not going to say you can't, but I really want you to think beyond it. I want you to think like, well, I want to have more energy to play with the kids, or I want to, you know, live a longer life, or like I've got knee pain that I want to get rid of, or like whatever it is. There's lots of different ones, or like, you know, it could be I want to launch my business and I don't feel great about myself at the moment, like whatever it is. But I want you to have a bigger why, because what happens is when we focus on, like, if that client I told you about had used a number on the scales, and she was like, I want to lose a stone during the 3 months we're working together, Linda, and she gained half a stone, she would have thought she'd failed, right? So I want it to be like be bigger than like a weight thing. It's like, okay, what else do you want? It's like energy. Like her hair was falling out. She wasn't having any period. She was like me. She was like that half to 1 day period. Like she got her menstrual cycle. She was like, oh my God, I'm bleeding, Linda. Like, what is this? So it's like, it's thinking beyond that. Okay, so what are the different things? And they could be linked to what we've talked about, or they could not be. And I think that's it. So I will stop the recording. For anyone that is watching the replay, please drop me a message either on Instagram or on email. Let me know if you enjoyed this. Obviously, we're going to meet again tomorrow for this stress module. This was really long when I said I was going to do like short ones, so I apologize in advance. Hopefully it's really interesting. And if you want to know like the secret, so each day I'm going to run a secret offer on Nourished You. So drop me a DM or drop me an email. I'll tell you the offer of the day. On Wednesday, I will announce like more widely what the Ditch the Diet special is on Nourished You. It's going to go wider public sale on Monday. So this special offer will end on Sunday to the Ditch the Diet people, go wider sale on Monday, and then it starts the following Monday. So let me stop the recording. I'll go back to this in case anyone wants to see that. Stop. I need to put end meeting then.